The Hoops 8 Tournament Preview Show with Sports Director Travis Lee on Channel 8 WMTW.
Our girls' games of the year. How about Ellie Bowden at the buzzer for Lewiston, the game winner to beat Portland in a wild one. A wild win at Augusta. Gardner rallied to force overtime and beat the Rams, leading to their perfect season. Wells and Lake Region, an epic battle. The Warriors would prevail in 3 overtimes. And Spruce Mountain, down 11 at the half, rallied to beat Halldale 51-50 on a Jaden Pingree basket with 20 seconds to play. There was a time when he was just Newport's Cooper Flagg and then became Maine's Cooper Flagg, but the Newport community and Mainers are learning that it's now America's Cooper Flagg as the sophomore at Montverde Academy became a global star with his performance in the U17 World Championships this summer. A year ago, he was winning a state championship. Now, he's contending for a national championship, and the best is yet to come. A year ago, Cooper Flagg proved he didn't have anything else to prove playing Maine high school basketball, scorching a path to the state championship. He spent this season at defending national champion Montverde Academy in Florida, playing against the best players in the country.
I think that was definitely one of the biggest things that went into our move down here. Was that being surrounded by people that are like winners and like surrounded by people that want to push you as much as you want to push yourself. So yeah, I think it's definitely great being surrounded by people that are going to the highest level as well.
Flagg has continued to improve even against the best in the country and the world. His leading role on the U17 World Championship team was part of the reason he earned USA Basketball's Male Athlete of the Year.
Well, it was on my birthday, so I had woke up, I was already happy, you know how it is when it's your birthday. You're just kind of happy about everything. And then I started getting a bunch of notifications on Instagram, stuff like that. And I mean, I was kind of just like speechless when I went on Instagram and saw it.
Flagg maintains his dream is to play in the league, and he seems on target to be a draft pick one day. His coach, Kevin Boyle, has coached 8 NBA first-round picks, including #1 overall picks Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons.
The sky's the limit. He has a real good chance, if he stays humble and works hard, to have a chance to be a good NBA player one day.
Flagg's the rare superstar that seems just as comfortable doing the little things, which makes it tough to compare him to current stars.
I wouldn't really compare my game to them. Like, I don't know if I can compare myself to somebody, but I like watching like Jason Tatum and Kevin Durant and just like their shot creation and kind of like ability with the ball.
As it turns tournament time here in Maine, Flagg will be watching as he reciprocates the love his former teammates have given him, like on a recent tournament in New England.
When we went to Massachusetts for the hoop hall, I think like half of, or like most of our team from last year that won the states was actually out there supporting me and Ace. So, I mean, that's just a great feeling knowing that they're still there supporting us, and obviously I'm watching their games online and stuff and be on the sport team as well.
Now, even without Ace and Cooper, Nokomis had plenty left in the cupboard. They went 13-5. But it's Brewer that is the favorite in A North, with one of the state's top players in Brady Saunders. Skowhegan lost its first 3 games, but turned things around, providing Brewer its only loss of the year. And Nokomis and Mount Blue round out the top seeds in the North. Mount Blue, they're a scoring machine. They scored at least 50 in all but 1 game this year. Now in the South, Falmouth will try to make it 4 straight trips to the state Final Four. And with the #1 seed in A South, they got a good chance to accomplish that. Greeley is battle-tested. The Rangers have played 7 games decided by less than 5 points. Westbrook was a 13-win team in large part to the contributions of Colbin Dunphy, who can do it all. The Blazes can control the tempo and have plenty of motivation after ending the year with 2 losses. Marshwood has an experienced core, and Andrew Perry's a player who can take over a game. Gray won 14 of its last 15 games. The Patriots play with great energy, and junior Nate Hebert is one of the best scorers in the tournament. Falmouth has shifted into a higher gear, making them the favorite. The Navigators have big game experience. Chris Simons has become a force on the interior, with Judd Armstrong and Lucas Dilworth elevating their game as well. All right, Michael, seems like Falmouth is in cruise control right now.
They are. I mean, I think last year they were clearly the team to beat, and they proved to be. I think this year the field has closed in on Falmouth, and even though they're the 1 seed, they better watch out. There's going to be some really interesting quarterfinal matchups, probably none more so than that Westbrook-Greeley game. I mean, Westbrook's had their best season in years, and now they're going to play a Greeley team that's been involved in some crazy games lately, including that epic 8 overtime win over Freiburg a couple weeks ago. The Rangers can score with anybody. They can get up and down the floor and score points. So that's not going to be an easy matchup at all. And Grey New Gloucester, their best season since 1975, and that's the last time they won a gold ball. This team is legit. They had a nice big win over Greeley the other night in the finale. I look forward to seeing how deep they can go because Ryan Deschain's team, they're doing something special there. Certainly Falmouth with their big three. Chris Simons is so tough to stop. He can get the job done outside too. Judd Armstrong, nothing he likes more than to run down the floor and slam the ball home. And Lucas Dilworth does so much for that team on both ends of the floor. Not only can he score, but his energy. He's, Coach Dave Halligan, he says he's a warrior for us, and he brings that mentality. Falmouth got to the state game last year. They know there's no Cooper Flag standing in the way this time if they're fortunate enough to go back.
Yeah, and Marshwood, a 3 seed, actually beat Falmouth, so they've got that in their pocket. And a team that reached the regional championship a year ago certainly has to be looked out for. And I would be surprised if Westbrook didn't make a better run of Falmouth if they did get another chance to see them. And it was a lot of fun to watch the 8 seed lineup. Mount Ararat ended up winning it in the end, but there were 5 teams battling the last 2 weeks to get into that spot. So that tournament as well looking like it could be a lot of fun. All right, reminder, our tournament preview show you're watching right now, but we have Hoops 8 every 11 o'clock on WMTW throughout the tournament. Make sure to watch it.